Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, LBMTG, and today I'm bringing you guys a very cool top 10 list, the top 10 Dominaria commanders for Brawl. Brawl, of course, being the new format in which you use 59 cards plus one general slash commander, and everything is singleton, but you can only use standard legal cards as well. I believe it's coming to Magic Online on the 18th or something like that, which today is the 16th, so it should be out in like 2 days, I believe, on MidGo. But it's a very cool format. And I've seen a few games of Brawl going on, and I got really kind of interested in the format. And I think that with so many new legendary creatures and planeswalkers coming in Dominaria, now is the perfect time to do a top 10 Dominaria commanders for Brawl list for you guys. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the honorable mentions. Three honorable mentions that I have here are Jaya Ballard, Karn, Scion of Urza, and Whisper Blood Liturgist. So when it comes to Jaya, most of the mono red decks in the format are super aggressive and run Hazoret as the commander, and for the decks that aren't super aggressive in mono red, then Itali is just the better commander. So right now Jaya is just kind of in this in between a rock and a hard place where if you want to go aggro with Jaya, there's a better option to do so, and if you don't want to go aggro with Jaya and you want to go more of like a mid-range kind of control route, then it's usually better to just run a Tally over Jaya anyway. So right now, Jaya is kind of in this really awkward position. When it comes to Karn, there's not really enough colorless lands right now in Standard for Karn to be usable. As soon as I heard that the Brawl format was a thing, I started to brew up Hope of Girapur as a potential Brawl deck that I was going to try and build, and it just turns out that there aren't enough colorless lands to make it truly viable. So unless they do something about that in the near future, then Karn is still just going to remain an honorable mention and not really something that you can do too perfectly because of the mana base. And then finally, Whisper Blood Liturgist. Whisper has a really cool effect, but right now in Mono Black, there's just not enough ways to dump creatures into your graveyard to be able to reanimate your big things, and then there's also not a ton of ways to make tokens or creatures that you don't really care about to sacrifice using Whisper's abilities. So right now, Whisper is just also kind of in this weird spot where it has an extremely cool, unique ability. Just right now, the cards that we have printed in Standard just don't really work for it currently, but Whisper is one that I'm expecting to become a super popular one in the future as more cards get printed and possibly better Whisper strategy. And so here we are at the number 10 spot. I have Tatyova. So Tatyova being the Merfolk Druid, it is 5 mana, 3 colorless, 1 green, and 1 blue for a legendary creature Merfolk Druid for a 3/3. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and draw a card. So Tatyova is kind of like this blue-green kind of mid-range control, dirtily do-nothing kind of deck where you're just playing a bunch of lands, drawing a bunch of cards, and just having a fantastic time. This is, as one of my friends Tom would say, this is blue-green cards I like tribal. That's exactly the kind of deck that you can use with Tatyova. Here are some of the cards that I would expect to be auto-includes in this Tatyova deck. Bounty of the Luxa, Multani, a new card from Dominaria that seems perfect for this kind of strategy. Hour of Promise, because if you have Tatyova out, then it's also drawing you 2 cards and gaining you 2 life, and potentially making you 2/2/2 black zombie creature tokens off of the Hour of Promise. And then Nissa just works really well if you're going to be ramping and just putting more lands onto the battlefield, then that can mean that the X will be bigger for your Nissa Steward of Elements. Onto the number 9 spot, I have Marwyn. So Marwyn is going to be your commander for Elf Tribal. Whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, she gets a +1/+1 counter, and then you can add an amount of green equal to her power to your mana pool just by tapping her. So this is basically the perfect commander for Elf Tribal decks in the Brawl format. So things like Vanquisher's Banner, of course, you want to name Elf with that, and then things like Metallic Mimic as well to name Elf with. Llanowar Elves is getting reprinted, goes absolutely perfectly in this deck, and then there's just some really powerful elves in Standard right now, like Steel Leaf Champion, which you can see is getting printed here, is just an extremely powerful card and also has the relevant subtype of elf. And then Rishkar, again, another very powerful card with the subtype of elf as well. At the number 8 spot, we have Teshar. So Teshar has a really unique ability too, where whenever we cast a historic spell, we can return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield. So what we're going to want to do in this Teshar deck is have a lot of 3 converted mana cost creatures that have super strong abilities and are just super powerful. So some of the ones that I brought up here were Denitha, Capuchin, Paragon, Aerial Responder, and Fairgrounds Warden. 3 very, very strong creatures. And as I was kind of putting these creatures in here, I realized that all of them went super well with Dusk/Dawn. So Dusk Dawn, you could just end up building this entire deck around having creatures with power 2 or less in your deck that also just maximize the 3 converted mana cost spots. So you're going to need some historic spells to really make Teshar shine, but there are a lot of very good 3-drops in white right now, like the 3 that you have on your screen, and they all work super well with Dusk/Dawn. Onto the number 7 spot, we have Belzenlok. So with Belzenlok, there are a lot of extremely powerful cards in mono black right now, and with Belzenlok's ability, you really want to maximize your cards that are converted mana cost 4 or greater. That way you have a higher potential of repeating the process again and getting to draw additional cards. So some of the really powerful black cards that I brought up here include Noxious Gearhulk, Liliana Death's Majesty, Tetsamok Primal Death, and Gonti Lord of Luxury, all of which are extremely powerful cards. Gonti, maybe not so much as powerful, but it's just an absolutely fantastic card, and another card that has a special spot in my heart because I absolutely play this card every time that I'm in mono black. I just absolutely love it. And then the other 3 cards are just extremely powerful as well. So Demon Lord Belzenlok, you really want to maximize cards in your deck that have 4 converted mana costs or greater, and you would normally think that 4 converted mana costs is a little bit high, but you have to remember that we're at 30 life and we're in mono black, so mono black definitely has the removal to keep us alive long enough to be able to cast all of these more expensive cards, like getting the 6 mana for Tetsamok, paying the 5 mana for Liliana, paying the 6 mana for Gearhulk, etc. So I think Belzenlok really has a lot of potential as a mono black commander for the Brawl format. Onto the number 6 spot. This is kind of one that not a lot of people were talking about, that I'm probably rating a little bit too high, but it's a card that I'm probably going to end up brewing around a little bit with when it comes to the Brawl format, and that is Garna the Bloodflame. So right now, in Standard, the 2 best aggressive decks are Mono Black and Mono Red. So why not throw them together and give all of the creatures haste and a little bit of protection against board wipes? That's exactly what Garna is bringing you here. So we get the aggressive cards from both black and red and just try and kill our opponent as fast as possible. We get to play cards like Vicious Conquistador, Earthshaker Kenra, and Hazred the Fervent, which all are super strong in aggressive decks. And then we also just, because we're in red and we're in black, we also just get really good removal spells, things like Unlicensed Disintegration, and we also have access to things like Shock and Lightning Strike as well. So Garna is probably one that I'm overrating a little bit, but it's one that I think is super, super sweet. And if it ends up being, if we're able to end up playing aggressive decks in the format, if things aren't too slow or aren't, control-y / mid-rangey like I'm expecting things to be, and you can actually get away with an aggressive deck, I think Garna has a lot of potential to be the best aggressive commander / general, maybe even up there with Hazred herself. At the number 5 spot, we have Adeliz. So Adeliz is your wizard tribal commander. You can see here the bottom 2 cards, Wizard's Lightning and Wizard's Retort, both cards that care about the amount of wizards that you, or not even the amount of wizards, but that you at least have a wizard. So all of the creatures in the deck for Adeliz will be wizards, so that you can also take advantage of her second ability whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell. Wizards you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Again, there are a lot of cards that have the wizard subtype. You can see the new card here, Naru Meha, is a 3/3 wizard, which also gives other wizards you control +1/+1. And then one from Amonkhet here, Soul Scar Mage. Both of these actually work very well with instants and sorceries as well. So again, this whole deck basically revolves around instants and sorceries and the creature type wizard. And basically that's all you're going to be doing for this deck. And then it's kind of an aggressive deck because you get some of the red cards. But at the same time, you also get some of the tempo stuff from blue. So the deck works out very nicely, and I think she has the potential to be a fantastic option for you to choose in Brawl. At the number 4 spot, we have Radha. So Grand Warlord Radha, 4 mana for a 3/4 with haste. Whenever one or more creatures you control attack, add that much mana in any combination of red and slash or green until end of turn. You don't lose this mana as steps and phases end, which is absolutely fantastic. This is basically going to be the commander for your green-red monster strategy. You can see cards that are basically signpost cards for the red-green strategy, for the red-green monsters deck in Standard right now, which are Merfolk Branchwalker as well as Rekindling Phoenix. Along with that, I wanted to throw in some cards that we could actually use some of this mana that we're making with Grand Warlord Radha, and the first two that I thought of were that we can make a very big Jaya's Immolating Inferno. Grand Warlord Radha herself is in fact a legendary creature, so we do get to meet that legendary requirement for Jaya's Immolating Inferno by using Radha. So we can make a very big Immolating Inferno, or we can just activate Ronus the Indomitable a bunch of times, and most of the time Ronus the Indomitable will already be turned on with the power 4 or greater because we're running things like Rekindling Phoenix and some of these bigger creatures as well. So I think there's definitely the potential for Grand Warlord Radha to be a super strong deck. The only thing is it doesn't really have a ton of interaction with other decks outside of things like Shock, Lightning Strike, etc. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how the format plays out and whether you really need to be interacting with your opponent or whether you can just get away with playing these fantastic creatures and then trying to finish the game with Ronus activations and Jaya's Immolating Inferno. At the number 3 spot, we have probably the best card in Dominaria, Lyra Dawnbringer. Basically, the strategy that you're trying to do with Lyra Dawnbringer, you can run it a few ways, one of which is the Mono Angels plan, the Angel Tribal list, because she does give other angels you control +1/+1 and lifelink. However, Lyra is just an absolutely fantastic card on her own, and so you can basically just put her together with any combination of white cards and she'll be absolutely fantastic. So my kind of idea for the perfect Lyra deck is just the absolute best cards that you can find in white, all thrown together with access to a Baneslayer Angel whenever you want it. Baneslayer Angel, of course, being a previously printed card that is very similar to Lyra, and so you're just basically putting in all of these fantastic white creatures. Here I have Benalish Marshal and Angel of Invention, which you can be playing in this deck. Fantastic creatures in the deck, and then white also has some powerful removal here in the form of enchantments such as Cast Out and such as the new card Seal Away. So Lyra, definitely a very strong deck. Only limitation is that it is mono white. Mono white is fairly weak right now, but when you actually look at it and see how strong some of the creatures are, along with some of the decent removal spells, I think there is the potential that Lyra could possibly be one of the best Brawl Commanders. At the number 2 spot, we have Teferi. Teferi is basically just going to take over the Approach of the Second Sun deck. Right now, the commander for the Approach of the Second Sun deck is Dovanbon, and Teferi is just much better than Dovanbon. Basically, this deck is just going to be your solid blue-white control list. You're going to try and win the game using Approach of the Second Sun. And then you get some cool planeswalkers, like you could run Dovin himself, or you could run things like Gideon of the Trials. And then Search for Azcanta can help you filter out some of your draws, and then in the late game can help you draw into additional important cards by finding some instants and sorceries off of the Azcanta activation on the flip side. And one of the big things to note here is that with Teferi, he does cost 1 more mana than Dovanbon, but notably he ticks up to draw a card, while Dovanbon ticks down to draw a card, and that's one of the big reasons why I think Teferi will basically just completely take over Dovanbon's spot, and you'll see a lot of people running the blue-white approach deck with Teferi as their commander instead of Dovanbon now. And finally, on to the number 1 spot, Muldrotha. So Muldrotha is super sweet. This is one that I'm also thinking about building here as soon as I get my hands on some of these cards. The biggest thing when it comes to Muldrotha is that she is black, green, and blue, which are fantastic cards for mid-range grindy style, or I think I said cards, I meant colors. They're fantastic colors for mid-range grindy decks and mid-range grindy games to be played with. Here's some of the cards that I have. You have access to the Scarab God, which is also important because the Scarab God is just a fantastic card. But I do have things here on the screen like Evolving Wilds. Every single turn we'll get to Evolving Wilds. If we don't hit our land drop for turn, that's fine. We can just Evolving Wilds and go into our deck and take out a basic land. Evolving Wilds is also nice because we are 3 colors, so It's mana fixing as well as just getting lands out of our deck in the late game. Another thing that I have here is Search for Azcanta. Instead of filtering out your draws like you would for the blue-white control deck with Teferi that I showed previously, this Search for Azcanta would be more of just putting things into your graveyard that you can just return later with Muldrotha. You're essentially drawing 2 cards a turn because you can just replay the things with Search for Azcanta every turn. Or you can replay the things with Muldrotha that you put into the graveyard with Search for Azcanta every single turn. So it's a very, very sweet engine. And notably, Search for Azcanta says that if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Search for Azcanta. 99% of the time, we will not be transforming the Search for Azcanta. We're just going to leave it as something to let us filter through our draws and put things into our graveyard to potentially buy back in the future with Muldrotha. And then just something else that I had here was Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot. This is just kind of showing the versatility of Muldrotha. Because it says permanent type, we can bring back artifacts, creatures, lands. We can do whatever we want. So in the same turn, we could do something like bring back Evolving Wilds, bring back Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot, and bring back some sort of a creature from our graveyard all in the same turn. And then Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot is a good way of generating some card advantage for us over and over again, because we can just continuously keep putting it back into the graveyard, bringing it back, drawing more cards, putting it back into the graveyard, bringing it back, drawing more cards over and over and over again. So this deck is just super sweet, super grindy, and it's the kind of Magic that I really like, where there's a lot of things going on and you get to kind of process what's the best play at certain times, and you get to see a lot of cards. And it seems like a very, very fun deck, and I would be very surprised if Muldrotha wasn't the best Dominaria commander for Brawl in Dominaria. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope that you guys did enjoy it. I had a lot of fun making this video, so again, I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you guys did enjoy it, be sure to let me know. Of course, I do daily uploads here on the channel. If you guys want to see more of them, subscribing is the fantastic thing to do so that you guys can get informed whenever I do upload my newest videos. And I hope you guys did enjoy it. I know I said that for the 3rd time, but really I hope you guys did enjoy it because this was a fun one to make, looking through all the legendary cards and planeswalkers in the new set. So hope you guys had a fantastic time watching this video, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day as well. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I will see you guys next time.